Irashaimase! Hello and welcome to Fataris' Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fataris. It's time once again for Shoot 'em Up Saturday, and on the menu this Saturday we have Cotton Reboot, an excellent remake of the 1991 Shoot 'em Up classic. What kind of taste will it have? Let's get cooking and find out. Originally from developer Success, Fantastic Night Dreams Cotton would release to arcades in 1991. It would see console ports for several systems, including the Sharp X68000 and the PC Engine CD. That version would see a North American release for the TurboGrafx 16, though it is rare. So fast forward 30 years and we have Cotton Reboot, courtesy of developer Beep. This is truly an excellent re-imaging of the original Cotton game, and it's one that I can completely recommend the taste to fans of the Cotton series. To everyone else, as far as shoot 'em ups are concerned, I feel like the price point is just a little too high to recommend it. The gameplay is excellent, but there's just not enough here to justify a $50 US price tag. That said, this is just based off of the Japanese release, and it's possible that the price for the worldwide release might come down. At this point in time, it is available for the PlayStation 4 and the Nintendo Switch, which is the version we're looking at, as well as plans to release for the PC as well. So here we find ourselves at the main menu. There are three modes we can play the game in. At the top, we have the Arrange mode next to the Orange Willow. Now, next to the Yellow Willow, there's the X68000 mode, which is what the Arrange mode is basically based off of. The X68000 is more or less an arcade perfect port, so in a lot of ways this is kind of like the arcade version as well. Below that, with the Green Willow, you have the Time Attack, and there are two versions you can play this in. There's the 2-minute version and the 5-minute version. Next we have the rankings. This is our online leaderboard, and it really helps, in my mind, add more replayability to a title that otherwise wouldn't have as much reason to keep on grinding away at scores. Then you have options, and last you have the game manual, which is not good. It's basically tries to teach you the game in this visual novel style with banter back and forth between the two main characters, Cotton and Silk, and I don't feel it really does a good job of explaining especially the new systems they added to the Arrange mode, which we're going to dive into right now and check out. Starting up the game, we're taken to this title screen, which has a really nice arcade-like presentation to it. I just love how clean everything looks in the new Cotton Reboot. Starting the game, we have the story, and of course, if you're familiar with the original Cotton, you'll know that there's story segments interspersed between all the stages. They've gotten a great new, they've basically gone and redone them all in high definition, and the art looks wonderful, but unfortunately we'll skip over there. Real quick synopsis of the story. So basically the fairy world is under attack by demons. The fairy Silk is seeking help, and she comes across the witch Cotton. Cotton's not necessarily interested in helping until talk of the magical candy willows is brought up, and willows are what we need to save the fairy kingdom. So, promise of basically payment guaranteed, Cotton sets off with Silk to save the fairies. So what you might first notice is this game just looks beautiful. The backgrounds have a really wonderful aesthetic to them, and the redone enemy sprites as well as the character sprites are just gorgeous. Throughout the course of the stage, I'll throw in a little bit of footage of both the X68000 version from this release, as well as some footage of the PlayStation release as well, so you can kind of have some comparisons gameplay-wise. So Cotton is is in a lot of ways your standard horizontal scrolling shoot 'em up. We have a shot which also comes coupled with a bomb, and there also happens to be some magic which basically acts as our a big screen clearing bomb. But there's a lot more depth to it than that, and that's one of the things that makes even the original Cotton a really interesting, unique shoot 'em up. So rather than have a normal power-up system, the main shot levels up by this experience system, which you'll happen to see the experience bar in the bottom middle of the screen. How do we gain experience for our shot? two ways. We can defeat enemies, which will give you a small amount of experience, or you can pick up yellow or orange crystals. The yellow crystals giving you a little less, the orange crystals giving you just a bit more. There happen to be 5 other colors of crystals as well, though, and we'll talk about those in just a moment. Should you happen to lose some lives, depending on your difficulty setting, the amount of your experience bar will drop by some levels, but it's not going to be a catastrophic reset like some games would have you, unless, of course, you lost enough lives in rapid succession. So this first boss is actually kind of interesting to compare with footage from the other two, as I feel like there's some interesting things going on with both the PlayStation version and the Sharp X68000 version. But in some ways, I like the detail that the Sharp one had. Anyway, back to the Cotton Reboot. Once we defeat an enemy, we'll be moving on to the second stage, but not until after the important tea time. This is something that's kind of like a bonus section that's in all Cotton games, where after completing a stage, we have this section where we're collecting these cups of tea that are miraculously raining down from the sky. And a lot of the goods that are available for the Cotton series happen to revolve around teacups, some of the most valuable collector's items the game has. Of course, after we finish the stage, we have our cutscene, and then we can move on to the next stage. So now let's talk about the magic system the game has. In the bottom right, you see that there are several icons, and those are our magics. So, in addition to giving experience for our weapons, if there are other colors, these crystals will give us magics. And in the original Cotton, there were only 2 types of magic. The blue, which was basically lightning magic, and the red, which is fire dragon magic. In the original arcade version and the Sharp, you could charge those up for a charged attack as well. That wasn't present in the PlayStation version, though. However, in Reboot, they add 2 new types of magic. So the one here we see is this rock slide magic. It's actually really powerful, and at higher levels is pretty impressive to see, as you would be thinking that like, it's got to hit us. Unfortunately, there are some sections where it's like that. There also happens to be the purple magic, which acts as a bomb. I used one there, but it was level 1, so it wasn't very impressive. And the leveling is another element that's new. So as you pick up crystals of the same color, it will level up your crystals, making the magic attacks even stronger. One thing that's interesting about the magic, though, is that the way that it's managed is kind of backwards from my thinking initially, but after having given some thought and some discussion, it kind of does make sense given that they have extra magic types added. So I did mention that it is possible to charge that magic up, and if you do, to the point where the fairies roll around you, you can get a secondary effect, which for the lightning magic creates this electric shield around you. Let's see if we can actually get to the fire magic to use. For the fire magic, the charged attack for that basically has the fairies engulfed in flame, homing around and dealing damage to the enemies. Then the 2 new magics. So for the green magic, should you use the charged attack with that, it will do this attack, which will damage enemies, and all smaller enemies will turn into crystals. And actually, I can use the purple one here. If we use the purple magic, all the crystals on the screen will turn into these high point black crystals, which gives us serious point bonuses. So speaking of crystals, one thing that's very different from this version of Cotton compared to the original, in the original Cotton, the crystals would fall to the ground if you didn't shoot them. Where in this one, they stay floating in the air, and this makes it significantly easier to collect the crystals as well as get additional magics, making it, even at higher difficulties, an easier game that way than the original. After a little bit of effort, the boss is down, and we move on to the third stage, and we can talk about the last major new thing that they added to the game itself. After, of course, our all-important tea time. Oh, actually, I think I did forget to mention what I was talking about with the magic management. So when you pick up the magic in the original versions of Cotton, the first one you picked up would be the first one you used, and then everything would build up left to right, and you would use the ones on the left. However, in this version, when you pick up the magic, the new magics you get go on the left, and you use the most recent ones you picked up are the most recent ones you'll use. That's kind of an interesting difference. But the last major new system that was added to the game happens to be something involving the crystals and then that meter in the bottom left of the screen. So you might have noticed with the crystals floating in the air, as we shoot through the crystals, there's kind of this refracting shot that develops. So in the case of Cotton Shot, which is usually this helix, and at full level it looks really awesome, it becomes this twin green shot that deals some extra damage. And that will build up that meter in the bottom left, which is our fever meter. So if we activate that meter, if we happen to shoot through crystals, anything we hit will explode into huge multipliers. And that multiplier, well, if in fever mode we are hitting enemies, then that will build up the level of our multiplier, and it can go all the way up to level 5, which gives us for times, or what is it, a times 1000 multiplier for huge points, making it super engaging of a score attack game with those new systems available. So the one thing I do really appreciate to the remake is the remake added health bars for both the mid bosses as well as the stage bosses. And that's super helpful, as in the original versions they would just change colors to red before they exploded, and so it was hard to know exactly when you were going to defeat an enemy. So we've basically covered what's here in Cotton Reboot, and I can say 100% that this is an incredible remake that just takes what is a pretty unique and fun shoot 'em up and just takes it to the next level. Especially if you're a fan of this series, this is one that I can recommend. And if it happens to come down from the original price point, definitely pick this one up. As far as the minus flavors I feel the game has, the biggest one really just is the price point. There's just not enough content there for that high of a price point, largely just due to the fact that Cotton itself is a short game. It's got 7 stages to it that you'll get through pretty quickly, and that's including the fact that the 7 stages is just the final boss. But you do also have the fact that they didn't include any extras in the game itself. So if you pick up the limited edition, there are some physical extras there that are pretty exciting, like a teacup, art book, a soundtrack, that sort of thing. But none of that is present here in the digital. It would have been nice if there was a digital gallery or something like that present in this release. But on the plus flavor side, this one is just a really excellent and well done shoot 'em up. You just have all those super exciting elements to Cotton itself, the experience-based leveling, the new scoring mechanics that are here, just really set it up to be one of those titles that in a lot of ways is kind of just timeless fun and is well worth experiencing. Alright, that'll just about wrap it up for this week's episode of Shoot 'em Up Saturday. As always, I want to thank you so much for joining me this week, and I look forward to seeing you again next week.
Tita!